This is NHL Wraparound Quick Takes. Let's shuffle off to Buffalo with another edition of Spring Cleaning. The Buffalo Sabres made the playoffs for the first time in 15 years in 2025-26, finishing first in the Atlantic with 109 points. Only 3 of their previous 14 years did they even eclipse the 500 mark, and in the playoffs, they beat the Boston Bruins in 6 games before losing in 7 to the Montreal Canadiens, that 7th game ending up in overtime. But when we looked at this team during our summer coolers last year, our expectations of the Sabres were, I would say, underwhelming. They did acquire Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring from the Utah Mammoth in exchange for sniper J.J. Peterka, and they signed Alex Lyon, a goaltender, as a free agent from Detroit. But other than that, we didn't have a lot of reason to think that this season was going to look any different than the 14 that preceded it.
No, it didn't look any different. But one thing that did happen during the season this year that we could never have seen coming was that they fired the general manager and brought in a new one. And even though I'm here to tell you that general managers don't have an impact game to game, somehow this did have an impact on the team, and the team took off right at that point, actually right before that point, and never looked back. It was early December when they started this, and boy, they were a completely different team than they were in the months of October and November.
They ended the season 30 points better than they did a year ago, and the run that you are speaking of began on December 9th. They were 11-14-4 following a 7-4 loss in Calgary. But on that night, they won in Edmonton. And that started a 10-game winning streak and a 33-6-2 run, which included additional winning streaks of 5 and 8 games. And that 8-game streak came amidst a 12-1-0 run. The general manager change that you talked of, Kevyn Adams, fired on December 15th, which was actually 3 games in to this streak, and he was replaced by Jarmo Kekalainen.
Jarmo Kekalainen, the former general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, a very unsuccessful run for him in that position there. He was brought in by Adams to be his consultant, and the owner decided, well, we've seen enough of this GM. Let's try this new one. And so he got that job.
Here's the numbers for the season, and quite a reality change from what we have seen in recent years from Buffalo. Their home record went from 8 to 16 games over 500, probably the bigger move. On the road, they went from 11 games under to 11 games over 500, 67 goal improvement in goal differential from minus 20 to plus 47. Even though their power play kind of remained in the bottom third of the NHL, the penalty killing went from 23rd to 4th. They were tied for second with 11 short-handed goals scored. Their goals against went from 30th to 11th. That was a combination of Ukko PekkaLuukkonen, Alex Lyon, and Colton Ellis. And the save percentage from 31st with 880 to 3rd at 900. So a lot of things with significant improvement, particularly on the defensive side of play.
Absolutely. A lot of things went right. And you can't say because they had a new coach. Lindy Ruff had been there the year before. And yet this year, everything just started to click. It's one of the oddities of this season, I got to say, is the Buffalo Sabres turnaround midseason. We rarely see a team that looks like they're headed for the basement again that turns it around and ends in first place. It doesn't happen. You could look at the St. Louis Blues back in 2018, who were last overall and ended up winning the Stanley Cup. That was a true oddity. But the Buffalo Sabres this year, was very much an oddity as far as when you're observing the NHL year to year.
And check out the player numbers for this year. 13 multiple goal scorers. Tage Thompson hits 40 for the third time. Alex Tuch hits 30 for the third time and had a career best plus 24. And Rasmus Dahlin, career best in points with 74 and plus minus at plus 18. Masterton Trophy candidate as well as the Norris Trophy. And we have seen him emerge this year as a tremendous player on both sides of the puck, great leadership capability, and a real edge to his game also.
It really was a coming out year for him, and he was a big reason why this Buffalo Sabres did this turnaround midseason the way we are describing.
They also got 50-point seasons from Ryan McLeod, Josh Doan, Jack Quinn, and Dahlin is the leader of one of the best young defense corps in the league with Owen Power, another former first overall pick, Bowen Byram, and Mattias Samuelsson. And then you throw in here, Neil, the playoff emergence of Zach Benson. He did have 43 points during the regular season, had 5 goals, 4 assists in the playoffs, but 64 penalty minutes, and was a pain in the ass to both the Bruins and the Canadiens. And then throw in Konsta Helenas, who only played in 4 playoff games, but I think that his days not being with the parent club are over.
Yeah, big man, and certainly was very visible during the time he was up with the Sabres.
Also, toss in Noah Ostlund, who was impressive before being knocked out of the postseason with a lower body injury in the 5th game against Boston. But overall, this is the 7th youngest team in the league, and there is no reason that this team should not continue an upward trajectory in 26-27.
No, there is no reason why they shouldn't. I think they've found their footing now as an organization, as a team. And I want to mention, too, that this was a coming out year for Josh Doan, basically an unknown other than his father being such a great Phoenix Coyote, but an unknown in the league, was traded from the Utah Mammoth over to Buffalo, as you said, in the Peterka trade. Really developed into a real good player for the Sabres and had a great playoff run.
Got a nice new contract also, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did.
So let's take a look ahead at the work that Jarmo Kekalainen has in front of him. Team has only 4 picks in this upcoming draft, none in the second round. And that was part of the deal to acquire Josh Norris from Ottawa at the 2025 deadline. They have none in the third round, that going to the New York Rangers in exchange for Sam Carrick. And they had none in the 7th round. That went to Winnipeg to acquire Tanner Pearson at the deadline. Team has a little bit under $1 million in cap space. Their UFAs, Alex Tuch, Beck Malenstein, Tanner Pearson, we just mentioned a moment ago, and Joshua Dunn up front, Luke Shen and Logan Stanley, acquired late to bolster that defense, and they will be UFAs as well. Their RFAs are Benson, Peyton Krebs, and on defense, Michael Kesselring.
Well, it's absolutely essential that they keep Alex Tuch in the fold. Had a tremendous year. He's going to make a ton of money wherever he signs, even if he signs in Buffalo. He's a Western New York product, so I know he would love to stay in Buffalo. But again, with the way he played this season, he's in for a big payday. And if Buffalo doesn't pay it, he'll be moving to some other team. And to me, that would be the biggest hole you would be left with if he did not re-sign. Obviously, they're going to have to re-sign the restricted free agents of Zach Benson and Peyton Krebs. And then the rest of the players that you just named, they'll decide as a management group who they want to keep and who they want to let move on to other teams.
Tuch is a local product. How much of a hometown discount do you think he would be willing to take to stay in Buffalo as opposed to moving somewhere else? Also with the knowledge that this team is going to continue to get better. And I think he wants to be a part of that. But there's a certain amount of money that it's going to cost the Sabres to keep him there.
If I were him, I wouldn't take a hometown discount. I wouldn't. This is Buffalo. Yeah, it's great. He grew up in Syracuse. He didn't grow up in Buffalo, but he's been a Sabres fan his whole life. I know he was thrilled to get traded there from the Golden Knights in the Eichel trade. But if I were him, Buffalo is not the most glamorous place in the world. So if somebody like the Vegas Golden Knights or the LA Kings, or you name it, a place where it's a little bit more of a bigger show, I would think that he'd move on. Now, maybe I'm wrong and maybe he would take a discount, but I can tell you I would not if I were him.
And just another piece of intrigue that we will look at heading into the Sabres offseason.